Hey Juicers, welcome back to Harley's Throttle Juice. Roger from Harley's Throttle Juice and Kev from Central Coast Harley Davidson once again. It's time for episode 3 of our brand new Q&A series. Are you ready to go, mate?
Right to go.
Right to go. We'll just dive straight into it, eh? First question for this episode, Harley Day Rider from Pennsylvania in the US. Kev, Harley Day Rider says, and this is on the back of the previous episode where we were talking about warranties and can you do your own work and what am I covered for in the warranty period or without it, or outside of it. Harley Day Rider says, can you ask him if I go through the checklist, which is the checklist in the Harley manual, plus the oil change, doing the oil change himself, is that good to go?
Absolutely. Great question. A lot of people skirt around the subject without really talking to us about it, but if you follow that service schedule and tick those boxes as you go along, great. At least the items are being checked. Yeah. As far as changing your own oil and filter and bits and pieces, you're not going to avoid the warranty, even if it's within its warranty terms. But one thing I would recommend people do is when you purchase your oil filter, your plugs and all your bits and pieces that go with that service, you keep that receipt and you mark on that receipt the date and the kilometres you did.
Yeah.
Should you need evidence or need to document you've done the service in the correct manner, you can go back to that invoice.
Yeah.
It's just a good record keeping.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I would recommend, Rog, if you're going to do your own services, once a year, contact your Harley dealer, give them your VIN number and get them to check for safety recalls, campaign recalls, just to make sure everything's up to date. And with the newer motorcycles, it's a good idea to once a year get your bike into the Harley shop to make sure your software's up to date.
Wow, that's very important. That's something that I didn't think about, yeah.
And it's something you can't do at home. You do need the Digitech to do it.
Very, very good point.
The software might change the battery charging parameters. And you'd be amazed how many times we see bikes that are 4 or 5 years old running old software. That is, it's glitchy. And it's changed for a reason. So definitely do that.
Oh yeah, well, just that point on the software updates, whether they get glitchy or not, and every few years they change. Yeah, that's super important. That's something I'd never even thought about that.
Yep.
Never even thought about that. There's another question there from the US. This time, what's up, Bob? He's from Kansas. He's pretty much along the same lines. He said, so would be curious, are we as owners able to do annual maintenance on our own bikes without taking it to the dealership and in brackets out of warranty bikes? Of course.
Yep.
So
you're more than covered. I would just document your own records for yourself.
Yep. The Harley Roadshow, this is Paul and Elaine from Melbourne in Victoria. He says, I've got a question. Well, I got him to go back and rephrase it, but his initial one was, I've got a question. When will Harley Davidson start to upgrade their suspension to a level that matches the price of the current bikes out there, especially the touring range, given that a lot of tourers are going to be carrying extra luggage, a pillion, etc. A more heavy-duty suspension would make such a difference and not really after the price significantly. So I responded to him and said, well, it's a great question and I fully agree with your remarks. Not sure what a dealership can add to that conversation, however I put it to him. So Paul came back and said, OK, then phrase it this way. Does he personally think they should upgrade the suspension? At the end of the day, it's up to the dealers to report back to head office what their customers' expectation and wants are. Let's face it, you buy a 60k motorcycle and then you have to put on aftermarket suspension to make it handle the way it should. You spend 60k on a car and it's handling like a dream.
So I take it the question is, should Harley come out with upgraded suspension?
Yeah.
No.
Hang on, how much money did I just spend?
There's always a curveball with you, Roger. I always do it to you every time.
I know you do.
I've become part of the fun.
And I'm not a baseballer.
Yeah. So, no. Look, 5% of the riders probably exploit the tourers to their full potential and then find the suspension is not up to what they want to do.
Right.
And I think it's a great reflection of your riding skills. If you're getting the bike to the edge of its performance level, it means you're really pushing it along. And good on you because you're riding it to another level.
Yeah.
The problem you've got is where do you stop? So as a manufacturer, when they design a bike, one of the things is, basically what's the ultimate price of the bike going to be? If you spend another 5 or 6 grand at suspension, do you then spend another 5 or 6 grand doing something else, on engine mods and all these sort of things, where 95% of the riders aren't going to exploit it?
Right.
So It's probably a multi-part question,
Yeah.
and it is a great question, but it's really complicated.
Yeah, and when do Harley start and finish with what they put on their bike? So there's going to be a large contingency of people out there that say, well, hang on, I do this type of riding, and you're asking me to spend that much money, and there are other people that, you're right. It's
And if
horses
you went
for
with
courses.
a wheelbase suspension, someone might like a Legend
That's what I was
suspension
gonna
or
say.
an Icon suspension or this. Do we then put different grips on the bike? And then we start pricing it out of the people that really can afford the bike.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair because, as I say, 95% of the people aren't going to ride it whether it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and potentially if they start putting mods on that they believe are suitable for the bike as standard, and it doesn't suit a certain percentage of people, now you get the propensity that certain people in the market won't buy the bike.
Yeah, and suspension is really complicated. Someone that's a lady riding a tourer at 60 kilos is going to have a different suspension requirement to someone that's 120 kilos, 130 kilos. Or someone that buys the tourer and only ever goes solo. Suspension is so specialised. You've got shock dynos, people that really set bikes up and that's all they do is suspension.
Yeah.
Do we then have it with a different progression rate to a different damping rate? The best thing that riders can do to get the best out of their bikes in the suspension is when they're riding, determine where the weakness of the bike is. Okay, are you struggling for grip mid-corner? Are you struggling for grip entering corner? Where is it? Is it bottoming out under load? Is it pogoing in the rear suspension? And by doing that, then we can help you build the suspension for you. There's a caveat.
Yeah.
Another one of these.
Yes.
Upgraded suspension is certainly going to have the tyres do their work.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a different wear rate on your tyres.
Oh, interesting.
So a lot of people don't factor that because you're now making the tyres work, which is better.
Yep.
And as we know with tyres, there's an incompatibility. You've got grip and wear. So many people want their tyres to last forever.
Yeah.
But then your grip is nowhere.
Yep.
And then I don't personally care that much about wear. I want grip.
Yep.
It's really important to get the tyre and suspension as a package. Grip, you can't hit a button and turn on extra grip.
Yeah, right.
Because your tyres are your tyres.
Right.
And you can't change them mid-corner.
Yeah.
So be aware that any altering of your suspension is probably going to adversely affect your tyre wear, but give you much better tyre grip. And I would take that all day long. So
when you think about all that makes even more sense why Harley won't necessarily, or any manufacturer really won't necessarily go with a super upgraded suspension as stock. It's just one of those things.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Hope you answered your question. Great question. I wish people would think about suspension a lot more.
Great question. Greater answer. So the next one, Kev, is from Wayne Hudson. Wayne says, if the dealer installs your aftermarket pipes, wouldn't that ensure you are protected with no voids? Voids with a capital V.
Hey, Wayne. Tough one. Obviously, again, it is still complicated.
Yeah.
Aftermarket pipes, if it's aftermarket Harley pipes, you're absolutely covered. You're covered by Harley and the dealer. Aftermarket pipes by a third vendor or an outside supplier, they would be covered by that supplier.
Right.
And the fitment would then be covered by the dealer. I think Australian consumer law protects you a lot more than you realise. But sometimes the third-party suppliers' support is not quite as good as Harley.
Yeah.
You're dealing with people that bring pipes in from overseas.
That's right.
But you'd be covered.
Okay, one last one. We're going to finish off. A bit of an amusing one. Apologies, I've got to find it.
Amusing for you or me?
Well, for me, because I already know the guy, but amusing for you. So this is from Big Bird. Big Bird hails from Tasmania in Australia. We'll still call Tasmania part of Australia. Internal Australian joke there. I'll give you a preface here. Big Bird's about 7'14". He says, hi Roger, I have a question for your new series if you get short of them. Harley continue to make low models for short asses. Does Kev think that they may make a long series for those over 6'2" to comfortably ride? Asking for a friend. He says over 6'2", he's closer to 7'2" than he is 6'2". What do you think about tall people and stock bikes and how they should set themselves up for bikes?
The beauty of Harley is our Bible is so thick.
Yeah.
So we have a whole range of aftermarket components that can help you fit that bike.
Yeah.
I don't think you're ever going to get a bike that's probably going to suit you when you're standing next to it, Big Burke, because you're going to be a lot taller than the bike.
This is a guy that's that tall. I know for a fact that he has a second set of mirrors sitting up much higher than the stock ones on his street glide.
I think you're going to say in his bathroom.
No.
He has to have 2 sets of mirrors in his bathroom.
I don't know what he gets up to at home. Let's not go there.
I think your problem is going to be we need weight in our bikes low to the ground.
Yeah.
A low centre of gravity is just the best handling bike in the world. But you're probably just going to need controls on the bike that suit your long legs and your long body. Do they make bikes for tall people? Yeah, the Pan America is probably, close to a bike that's suitable for tall people.
Well, he lives close to some wilderness in Tasmania, so maybe ditch the. Well, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Ditch the street glide. No. Keep the street glide. Add the Pan Am to the family. Never ditch the street glide. Never.
And upgraded suspension that's about 17 inches longer than standard. It might be right.
Get on to Wilbur's, see what they can do for you.
Yeah.
But go Wilbur's.
Yeah.
Anyway, ask him for Fred, he says. Anyway, that's it for today. Kev from Central Gas Harley, thanks again. That was some fascinating stuff, especially relating to the suspension. That went down some avenues, some very interesting and informative avenues that I hadn't even thought about, and I'm sure that you, the viewers, have not thought about those, so plenty of food for thought. Cool. Thanks once again for your time, mate. We're looking forward to the next episode. Keep your questions coming in. Send them to me via Instagram or directly in the comments section of these YouTube videos. We really look forward to throwing them at this learned gentleman here and sharing the love and the information throughout the community. So thanks once again, mate. Harley's Throttle Juice, Central Gas Harley Davidson signing out. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys.